Ladies and gentlemen, there were additional talks on the border wall that broke down once again, and there is still no solution to this issue that has been going on now for quite some time. This came out in the BBC today, February 11th, 2019. U.S. shutdown looms as border talks stall ahead of deadline. So many people are now bracing for another government shutdown. And you know what the travesty is? Many of these folks never got their money from the first shutdown. They are struggling to pay these people. And I've done a video on that. Well, that is still all too real. Negotiators were hoping for a deal by Monday to give Congress time to pass legislation by Friday when the federal funding agreement runs out. They remain divided on how many undocumented immigrants can be detained and funding for Trump's promised border wall with Mexico. The previous shutdown lasted 35 days, and many of us remember that it ended, 3 weeks ago? Was the longest in U.S. history. Hundreds of thousands of workers were furloughed, while others in essential services such as hospital care, aircraft control, and law enforcement worked without pay. No, they didn't. Many of those TSA agents and air traffic controllers, they stopped showing up for work. And remember, the IRS declared hardships, and the ones that were supposed to show up for work didn't. People don't want to work for free. You can't exist in America for free. You just can't. I'm just trying to delete some old files on my computer. That's what you saw pop up. So the cost of the last shutdown was estimated at $11 billion. And I believe $3 billion of that can never be recovered. So the shutdown ultimately cost more money than what Trump was asking for. What was it, $5.7 billion for his border wall? It was unclear how the negotiators would try to reach a deal as no further talks were scheduled. Reuters news agency quoted an unnamed source as saying, "Oh, they're such big cowards." The 17 Republican and Democratic negotiators from the Senate and the House have been holding talks to reach a border security agreement that can be accepted by Congress. The latest impasse seems to be centered on a Democratic demand to limit the number of undocumented migrants already in the U.S. who can be detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is known as ICE. Democrats plan to cap the number of beds at detention centers reserved for those cases at 16,500. And, ladies and gentlemen, those people are not detained and just sitting there. Just like you have the prison labor, there's also labor being done in ICE camps. So this is to satisfy those billionaires that own these facilities. Yeah, they're doing the same type of work. So they love detaining people and getting free labor out of them. That's what America is all about. By doing that, they hope to force ICE to focus on detaining irregular migrants with criminal records instead of those who have overstayed their visas. And Democrats are productive and offer no threat. So they're detaining anything they can get their hands on. They had also been looking between $1.3 billion and $2 billion in funding for Trump's proposed border wall. a long way off the 5.7 billion Trump has been demanding. In a series of tweets on Sunday, Trump said the Democrats were behaving all of a sudden irrationally. So you can see Trump's tweet on the 10th. Donald J. Trump. I don't think the Dems on the border committee are being allowed by their leaders to make a deal. They are offering very little money for the desperately needed border wall. And now, out of the blue, want to cap on convicted violent felons to be held in detention. Well, that's where they belong. If you got violent people coming across the border, isn't that where they belong, Trump? So this was February 10th, 2019 at 11:17 a.m. Lead Republican negotiator, Senator Rich Shelby, told Fox News, "I'll say 50-50, we get a deal." Well, those odds are not really good, especially when you have a deadline of the 15th for another shutdown. And it's so bad, y'all. Even these, I was looking at what some of these government workers were saying, besides the fact that they never got paid. Many of them are saying they are now bracing for another shutdown. They know it's going to happen. Okay, Trump, who has suggested the talks are a waste of time, made building a wall on the border with Mexico one of his key promises in the 2016 campaign. He has backed away from his calls to make Mexico pay for a concrete wall, but during his State of the Union last Tuesday, delayed because of the previous shutdown, he insisted on a smart, strategic see-through steel barrier. Those barriers are not going to help. They're not going to help. Wow. Well, they're saying what would happen in a shutdown. We already know what's going to happen. These federal workers, 800,000 of them, if it's a partial one again, will go unpaid. I did an article, a video last week, and it shows that not only are many of them unpaid, the majority of them are not paid. Some of it goes all the way back to December. Some of these people haven't seen a paycheck since December. Some of them got pay, but it was a partial payment and not their full pay. I mean, this whole thing is a mess. If this government had money, don't you think they all should have been paid by now? This is 3 weeks later. They're not. Many of them are still struggling financially from the first shutdown. Now you got a second one looming? Yeah, this is going to turn into something really horrific for these people. And I was reading how some of them were contacting their landlords and, companies that they paid car payments to and home loans. And they told them, sorry, but you need to pay. There's no clause in those contracts that you sign that says if a government shutdown happens, you don't have to pay. It's not in there. So you are indeed accountable for those payments, whether you're working or not. It would be the same case for a regular citizen. If you lost your job, whether you work for a public or private company and you lost your job, your rent is still due. So why would it be any different for a government employee? It wouldn't. Well, we will find out what happens in the next few days, won't we? Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And I will see you on the next video. Peace, family.